Golf Central, brought to you by Callaway Golf.
Damon Hack, Brandel, Chamblee, Paige, Mackenzie. I was trying to think how I was going to start this show, and then our ace researcher, Kevin Ryan, said when Scottie Scheffler won here in 2022, he was 9 shots back after 36 holes. My friend, he is 7 shots back and going in the right direction.
Our researcher's in my head. He beat me to it. What I was going to say, in the last 15 years, if you were to find somebody who's come from as far back or even further back than Scottie Scheffler is, you would have to look for Scottie Scheffler, who in 2022 was in 44th place after 36 holes. So we talked about it this morning. He probably needs something in the mid-60s to get kind of back in this. He got the mid-60s round, but he needs to go forward with that. You know, another 65 and another 65 is probably what's going to take to get it done. Incidentally, that's what Hunter Mahan did in 2010. He was in 54th place after 36 holes and shot 65-65. So I'm saying there's a chance.
We already knew that about Scottie Scheffler, right? That he had the possibility that we might see a good thing. What I was confirmed to know as well was just how exciting this finish is. I mean, I cannot wait for Sunday, only because we saw today was a great example of the 2 leaders are at the top of this leaderboard that both made great runs on the back 9. So nothing for sure, except that we're going to get some volatility on the leaderboard come Sunday.
Yeah, whatever was troubling Scottie on Thursday seemed to be gone on this Friday. Let's start with highlights of the world number 1. I tell you what, it's just nice to see him middle of the fairway, ready to attack.
This is really when it turned around for him. He was a little scratchy, I would say, through the first 4 holes, but right here, right down the gut, that's not an easy driving hole, not at all. 347, 128, that is the Scottie Scheffler and the swing that we have seen so often, led to a birdie.
Good iron play, but you also need a hot putter.
That's right, and started rolling it really nicely. This is the place that he typically outperforms with the putter than his season averages. We got a sense of that today.
Number 10.
Back-to-back, 17-footers. Made the one at 9, down the hill. Come on, baby. Hook. There you go. Back-to-back birdies.
Up to 15 from the bunker.
Showing some short game again here from that par 5. Not an ideal position, short-sided, but able to convert for birdie.
And if you go back to the American Express, when he was making the turn there on Sunday, how many times did he hit a wedge shot from roughly 100 yards? And that's about what this is. That looks something like this. 1, 2 skips and a stop right next to the hole. That was his 64th shot of the day, and he cleaned it up for 65 to claw into that deficit.
Yeah, lusty applause, by the way, around that 18th green for the world number 1, closing with that birdie, out in 33, home in 32. Look at that, 16 of 18 greens in regulation for that 6-under round of 65. Paige, Mackenzie, I ask you, what was different today compared to yesterday?
Well, I think yesterday it felt like an out-of-body experience, what we were watching with Scottie Scheffler, because it was so outside the norm of what he typically does. And I think around this golf course, scoring club are in your hand quite a bit of the time. With a good drive, you've got something like a wedge or short iron. And what we saw yesterday is him not being able to take advantage of those scoring club opportunities. And whether it was in the fairway, whether it was in the rough, or whether it was off a tee, he just wasn't sharp. And this just one example of what we saw yesterday. It's off of the tee where, again, 155 yards and not giving himself a reasonable birdie opportunity. A lot of the approach shots, though, were out of the rough. So I want to compare. What is typical from Scottie Scheffler? What should we expect from him based on what we saw last year? And what did he do that first round? So between 50 and 125 in 2025, he was number 1 on the PGA Tour out of the fairway, just 15 feet. Out of the rough, a different animal in both of those distances. You can see it matters whether he's hitting out of the fairway or the rough as it relates to his proximity. But compare that to what we saw in the first round. Inside 155 yards, he had 8 approach shots. Over 50 feet was his average proximity. That's not giving yourself very many opportunities to score. So I thought, okay, overnight, he's going to fix this. He's going to come out the first hole scoring opportunity. You don't even have to hit driver. Just put it in the fairway, and you're going to have wedge in hand. And here he is, 133 yards on the first hole. Did he make the adjustment overnight? No. No, in fact, the first 3 approach shots, all inside 155 yards, he still averaged outside of 30 feet. But something did happen. Something did change because we saw some precision. Fourth hole hit a good approach shot from distance, but then the fifth hole, this wedge shot was, I felt like, significant in that turnaround. I was waiting for it overnight, but it eventually showed up at the fifth. And his last 5 wedge shots, his last 5 approaches inside 130 yards, he averaged 17.5 feet. That is the Scottie Scheffler we know. So we saw it at 5, see it again at 9 from 92 yards, inside 18 feet. The 10th hole inside 18 feet, and again, we saw him finish up his day on the 18th hole inside 4 feet on that finish. So again, he was able to turn it around with those short irons, and actually, I think in general saw a little more control with his irons coming down that last 9 holes.
Yeah, spot on. You know, look, it turned around for him at the 5th. I really do think that. And I don't know what transpired from 1, 2, 3, 4, but it can be as simple as a little feel in your grip or a little different timing. But it's clear if we go back to and try to compare what he did at 5 to yesterday, and you can see that yesterday he was out of sorts completely with his finish. Here he is today. Beautiful shot at the 5th. Again, it's worth seeing. And I want to focus on that finish. I talked to you yesterday about how at the finish, and this is very Hogan-esque, that left wrist is, the back of it's pointing behind you, the palm is pointing right at the target. That tells you you came down with the club right in front of you. It was square, you didn't have to manipulate it. Now on the left was yesterday. You could tell, look how steep the divot is. He was coming in much steeper, probably was a little bit shut, knew it instinctively, trying to save it. You won't see somebody, look, when he's trying to cut it, it's still not that extreme. If you look at his left wrist position on the left versus on the right, these are, by the way, identical shots. Wedge shots from around 100 to 110 yards, trying to do the same thing, both right pins. On the right, you knew he was zoned in. So, okay, ball striking is better. We had other things to make improvements upon from yesterday to today. All 4 of those categories. Strokes gain off of the tee, he was better. Strokes gain approach, he was better. Strokes gain around the green, he was better. Go to the greens, and how was he better? Well, yesterday, he wasn't terrible. He was middle of the pack. Barely picked up some shots on the field, but there it was at the 8th. That was great touch from about 50 some odd feet, making the turn here at the 9th. Again, beneath the hole, beautiful iron shot. Tough green to hit. We saw players hit that green up by the hole, spin it back off the green, go off the green. So great iron shot, set him up, going right up the throat there from 17 feet. Same thing could be said about the 10th. Down the hill here, breaking right to left. So the putter's flowing, nice touch. Outside the hole, breaking to the left, beautifully done. I want to go to number 12 again. Number 12, pin was all the way in the back. You sneak up on that hole. It looked to me like he was playing pretty conservative, making sure that water's completely out of play, leaning on the lag. You know, there's times when you go flag hunting, 12 is not necessarily one of them. This is 90 feet away. This thing had a chance. Absolutely had a chance. So great touch. So every single aspect of the game. Again, yesterday was probably one of the worst rounds he's played. Certainly the worst round he's played since going back to probably 2021 or so. It was easy to make improvements on it, but he made vast improvements in every aspect of the game.
One thing I love about Scottie, he doesn't struggle very often. When he does, he's down on the range with Ted Scott and Randy Smith. They go through it, and seems like things get fixed pretty quick.
Yeah, they've had the same team for a long, long time. He's been working with Randy Smith since he was a kid, since he was a child. So Randy knows his golf swing. Scottie knows his golf swing. The fixes are quick and not particularly complicated.
Yeah.